Greetings, everybody. So for this video, if you follow along intently, you will notice that this is not being uploaded in the morning. So for this, I'm trying something a little bit different here, where there is all kinds of great bonus material within the Orthodox Study Bible and essays and such, context for each book before the beginning of said book, that kind of thing. And in today's readings that I uploaded this morning, one of the footnotes actually referenced such essays. So this was an idea I was toying around with for some time, and then that footnote more or less pushed me to record this, to necessitate it. So this is an idea where, in addition to the daily prescribed readings of the church, I will hope to more or less randomly upload some of these great liner notes as well. I'm aiming for once a week, perhaps, but there's really no structure or rhyme or reason to this. I imagine I'll just pick a good page out of the Orthodox Study Bible, whatever looks interesting or relevant at the time, and whatever kind of rhythm it falls into, I suppose I will let happen as organically as possible. But for this first go-ahead at this, feel free to comment as well if you guys like this idea, if what kind of changes and everything I can make to it. But for this first go-ahead, we're going to read within the book of Luke this page here. It's page 1386 if you own the Orthodox Study Bible, which is an article on the 70. As you know, there's 12 apostles, but there were also 70 of a lower rank, more or less sub-apostles. Disciples still nonetheless. And as I said already in this morning's readings, was Christ's command to send the 70 out two by two. So without further ado, we're going to read this article within the book of Luke, within the Orthodox Study Bible, on the 70. In Luke, chapter 10, verses 1 through 17, the Lord appoints 70 men to go out as missionaries, as apostles. Though not so prominent as the 12, the 70 carried out their missions with fervor and enthusiasm. The tradition of the church confirms that the 70 remained true to the Lord and their calling, fulfilling a vital role in the spread of the gospel. These were not random choices or accidental volunteers, but true disciples, true apostles, whose labors carried the message of their Lord throughout the Roman Empire and beyond. Though lists of the 70 vary somewhat, all these men are remembered in the calendar of the church. And it says to see the chart, the 70, on page 1822. If all goes according to plan, you should be looking at a picture of that I have uploaded on the screen right now while I talk. One day, January 4th, is set aside to remember them all, and the record of their work is preserved in accounts handed down through the centuries from place to place, especially in those locations where they labored. To tell all the stories passed down in the church concerning the 70 would fill a book of considerable size, but the stories of a few will convey the conviction and faith of this illustrious body. Barnabas, a Jew of the tribe of Levi, was born in Cyprus of wealthy parents. He is said to have studied under Gamaliel with Saul of Tarsus, who was to become Paul the Apostle. Originally named Joseph, he was called Barnabas, which means son of consolation, by the apostles, see Acts chapter 4, verse 36, because he had a rare gift of comforting people's hearts. He sought out Paul when everyone else was afraid of him, bringing him to the apostles. It was Barnabas whom the apostles first sent to Antioch with Paul. Their long association was broken only when Barnabas was determined to take his cousin Mark, whom Paul did not trust just then, on a missionary journey. The three were later reconciled, and that is in Colossians chapter 4, verse 10. Many ancient accounts say Barnabas was the first to preach in Rome and in Milan, but he was martyred in Cyprus, then buried by Mark at the western gate of the city of Salamis. Also among the more prominent of the 70 was the apostle Titus, whom Paul called his brother in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 18, and his son in Titus chapter 1, verse 4. Born in Crete, Titus was educated in Greek philosophy, but after reading the prophet Isaiah, he began to doubt the value of all he had been taught. Hearing the news of the coming of Jesus Christ, he joined some others from Crete who were going to Jerusalem to see for themselves. After hearing Jesus speak and seeing his works, the young Titus joined those who followed him. Baptized by the apostle Paul, he worked with and served the great apostle to the Gentiles, traveling with him until Paul sent him to Crete, making him bishop of that city. It is said that Titus was in Rome at the time of the beheading of St. Paul, and that he buried the body of his spiritual father before returning home. Back in Crete, he converted and baptized many people, governing the church on that island until he entered into rest at the age of 94. Many less prominent among the 70 also labored for Christ unto death. Aristarchus, whom Paul mentions several times, Acts chapter 19, verse 29, Colossians chapter 4, verse 10, and Philemon chapter 24, calling him a, quote, fellow laborer, became bishop of Apamea in Syria. Sosthenes, Acts chapter 18, verse 17, and 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 1, became bishop of Caesarea. And Tychicus, in Acts chapter 20, verse 4, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 21, Colossians chapter 4, verse 7, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, and Titus chapter 3, verse 12, succeeded him, this is Tychicus, succeeded him in that city. Simeon, in Matthew chapter 13, verse 55, and Mark chapter 6, verse 3, son of Cleopas, who is the brother of Joseph, the betrothed of the Virgin Mary, succeeded James as bishop of Jerusalem. Aristobulus, in Romans chapter 16, verse 10, the brother of the apostle Barnabas, preached the gospel in Britain and died peacefully there. The lives of these few are quite representative of the 70, who were instrumental in helping to plant the church throughout the world. Many became bishops, but the names of all are numbered in heaven in the book of life as faithful servants of the Lord, apostles and foundations of the church.